Think about that chain of products that you can make, right? That,
Yeah.
something leads into another product. That's a good way to build your portfolio. It's kind of like around same way as around your content. You want your content to be about similar stuff. And then
Mhm.
so you make your products about the same kind of range of similar stuff. And then you start thinking about, okay, this is the video that could promote that. And then that product can lead into this. And you
Yes.
start to get
The
those.
path.
So yeah, those pathways
Mhm.
developed.
Hey everyone, welcome to Your First Digital Product, a show that helps maxed out service providers create their first digital product so they can gain an additional income stream, grow their impact without increasing one-on-one work, and experience more time freedom. On the show, I talk to business owners who have launched digital products and dig deep into how you can create, launch, and market your first digital product. I'm your host, Renee Morozowicz. Let's go. Hey everybody, today I'm here with Tim Krywulak. And Tim is a podcaster and YouTuber who covers content creation and social media strategy. He's on a mission to help to use that experience to help other content creators and entrepreneurs develop their skills, build sustainable businesses, and achieve their goals. Hey, Tim, how are you?
Hey, Renee, great. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about you in your own words.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. It's my
Yeah,
first
I'm
time being
excited.
on this side of the microphone, so I'm excited
Yay.
to have that opportunity. And yeah, I think the bio there kind of spells it out. I've started a podcast a little over a year ago, and as well as a YouTube channel. And the content really is aimed at trying to help content creators grow their audience and build sustainable businesses.
Yeah, because the audience is a big thing. Like, we can create all the stuff that we want and we can love it and it can be great, but if
Yeah,
nobody's watching or nobody's listening, it doesn't really probably do us any good, right? It's just like a hobby at that
that's
point
right.
and not, yeah, we're not making any money at it
Yeah,
and yeah, not getting that feedback. And I think that's important. Like, I'm doing some market research calls
yeah.
and really trying to identify the problems that people are actually having and
Mhm.
not just the ones I think they're having. So
Yeah.
it's been enlightening so far.
That's great. I think research is so important as the foundation for content creation and also certainly for any kind of products that we develop because I've definitely experienced that myself where there's things that, okay, I think this is really cool, but then you put it in the market and you find out maybe there's just not maybe it is cool, but there's just not a need for it, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely want it to be something that there is a need for because I think people's, like, attention is
Mhm.
limited and people just don't have we can only go down so many rabbit holes.
Yeah.
So, I think, yeah, definitely that you want it to solve an important problem for people,
Yeah.
so, yeah. Awesome. So, do you wanna tell us about your first product? And you had mentioned to me before we started recording that your first product is not available now,
Yeah,
but you had it up for a while, so tell us about
it's
that.
true. I had it up for a while. It was a Canva template for what was called a dynamic Twitter banner. And, back when it was called Twitter, they had this dynamic banner that you could download from Product Hunt, and it was a product created by Tweet Hunter. And then what it did is it pulled in the profiles of the last three people who subscribed to your Twitter account. And so you could see their profile pictures on your banner. It was kind of cool. It was new at the time, and not a lot of people were using that kind of banner. So it kind of attracted
Mhm.
attention. And the idea was that it would promote more people to subscribing to your channel. That was the theory in any case, and
Yeah.
I found that the problem I was trying to solve was that when I set mine up, it took several attempts to get everything lined up just perfectly. So the arrows were pointing to the people's
Mhm.
pictures, and the words were all in the right place, and your logo showed up in the right place. So I just created a template guide that showed people exactly where to put everything, so they could easily create their own dynamic Twitter banner. I'm not sure if that banner would still work or not. I had pulled it down, and the reason was I had success with it at first because I think it was new and trendy, and I got a good
Mhm.
number of profile conversions with it. But then over time, I realized it was going down, and it got to the point where I felt like it wasn't working anymore. So I didn't want to have a freebie or a product up
Mhm.
that wasn't working for me. So I took it down, but it kind of like it was a good reminder for me about product life cycle. The product that we create today, it's not going to last forever, probably. It's going to last a certain amount of time and be useful for a certain amount of time. And then we're going to have to create something else. And I think it's it's good to keep that in mind because it will help us get past some of the perfectionism that prevents people from creating products or finishing their product.
Yeah, and not to, like, scare people that, like, "Oh, your product's not gonna last very long," but
Yeah.
yes, you're right. I think that even if you don't pull the product down completely, like,
Hmm.
giving it a refresh or doing something,
Right.
this I hate the term passive income, like, I just don't even like to say it on this podcast, but I
Yeah.
think that, yeah, having a reasonable expectation for a reasonable lifespan of your product,
Right.
and with something like that, you're relying on algorithms and another
Right.
platform and what people are doing and who is coming there. So if people are leaving Twitter or
Hmm.
that product is not working anymore, like I think that, it's not great for you because all of these other things are happening that you can't control.
Yeah, for sure. Like some products will definitely have a longer life cycle than others. So, and that's something to think about when you're designing your product. Like some things are just very trendy and, limited time span and probably invest less time in perfecting them. And then you have those evergreen products that'll be good
Right.
for a long time and you could securely invest more time in them and create something that,
Mhm.
hopefully will get the traction.
Yeah, maybe more like strategy and things like
Yeah.
that than like a specific
Right.
how-to or, even something like I've had conversations with people who have, wanted to create like a how to use Squarespace or whatever
Yeah.
it is. And like Squarespace change halfway through their creating of that
That can
product. Like,
happen.
so yeah, like so creating something that is, yeah, maybe going to last a little bit longer, but yeah, also expecting that's not going to last forever because things change,
Yeah,
it's just the
and
way that it is.
and having, like, a piece of it or, like, a good portion of it maybe not reliant on somebody else's platform, which could
Mhm.
change dramatically and, then, invalidate part of your product, but if you keep it more about principles, like, there's still, for example, courses about, how to grow on Twitter, which I'm sure are still very
Mhm.
relevant for X, users or
Mhm.
things like that. Even with the changes on YouTube recently, some of the older stuff about how to create videos effectively is still
Mhm.
relevant for video creators. So just
Yeah.
something to think about, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
if you think about it ahead of time, then yeah, you don't have to kinda go down a path and be like, "Oh, that didn't work."
Yeah.
"Oh, it only sold for a little bit," or something like that. So, yeah.
But I was okay with the way the Twitter banner product, didn't last for a tremendous amount of time. Because the other thing that I learned, I think, through going through the process was that, part of what you wanna do is just to get your first product done, and it's better in a way to just pick something very
Yes.
simple, and that, like, lets you go through the whole process, and I prompted me to create a YouTube video about that, about your first lead magnet and how you can
Mhm.
the real purpose of the first lead magnet is not to get tons of leads. It's actually to get through the process of creating
How
the
to
first
do a lead
magnet.
magnet. Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree. And yeah, I just had a conversation before this call about with someone who wanted to do a course.
Mhm.
Perfectly fine. Courses are great. People have courses.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, those drawbacks of like it's going to take you a really long time to
Yeah.
create this. Are you sure you validated it properly? What if you did some, and I gave her my marathon metaphor of like if you want to start running,
Yeah.
what if you did a 5K instead of a marathon? Like,
Yeah.
just make it smaller. And I think she was worried that it wouldn't be very valuable,
Mhm.
but I think you can set those expectations ahead of time, like,
That's right.
this is what the product is, this is what the problem is going to solve for you,
Yeah.
and this is the cost. So people don't go into it expecting something else. They very clearly see
Yeah.
what it is. So, yeah, I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, there's a lot of parts to it, right? There's a lot of pieces.
For sure, and I've seen some creators have good luck with building pieces of a larger offer at one time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, just,
Mhm.
create a workbook and then you sell that for fairly cheap because it's just the workbook, and then you add maybe a mini course tutorial to the
Mhm.
workbook, and you can up the price of the package or sell them separately and
Mhm.
things like that, and that's where I think you see creators that have those huge bundles that's like 10
Mhm.
products in one. Usually, they didn't create
Yeah.
them all at once. They created them over
Right.
time and refined them over time.
Right.
So
Yeah, I've had a lot of people talk about that where, yeah, they created the first part and,
right.
yeah, sold the first part and said, like, "More is coming,
Yeah.
if you want in on that, like, that's what's going to be happening," but there's no promise date or anything
Yeah.
like that, like, "This is just how I'm rolling this out, and I'm accepting
Right.
feedback," or people who even do a product within, like, a group container first.
Mhm.
So, like, I get a group of 6 people together, I'm gonna teach them X over the course
Right.
of 5 weeks, And then I kind of see where they're having
Yeah.
trouble and what they need help with and what their questions are, and then I create the product. So I've done
Yeah.
most of the work, because I've prepared for those sessions, but then I come back
Mhm.
and, put it all together, and I know that it's what people are going to need specifically. So,
Yeah, that would be a
yeah,
great
tons of ways you can do it.
process. Yeah. You're getting the research done as you're
Yeah.
working with people and getting paid at the
Yeah.
same time. So,
Yes,
yeah, it's
exactly, and making
perfect.
money, right, yes. Win, win, win. Check,
Yeah.
check, check, yeah. Yeah, if you don't mind doing group programs or if you don't mind that live commitment, I
Yeah.
think some people don't want that at all, but, yeah, I think it can be really valuable to be able to, get that feedback and stuff.
Yeah, and one of my favorite YouTube creators, Vanessa Lau, that's how she developed a lot of her products was through coaching. So she would do one-on-one
Mhm.
coaching or group coaching with people and didn't necessarily have to record that, but actually learn through that process about what to create and also would create products for the clients and then not have them
Yeah.
proprietary, right? So that she would
Mhm.
be able to market the product to other people after that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I like it. So anything else you wanna say about the Twitter banner? Any problems you had creating it? How you marketed it? Anything that you learned specifically that we didn't already talk about?
I mean, I just found it very valuable to go through the process of like, okay, I created something, then you have to figure out, okay, where am I going to market it? And I went through that process of going through like, okay, what are all the different alternative vehicles you could use to make the product available to people so that they
Mhm.
download it, you get their email address and start building your email list and eventually settled on Gumroad, which I think was a good
Mhm.
option for that. And then you, create the sales landing page, and I've done a lot of writing before, but it's been, reports, academic papers, even
Yeah.
press releases, stuff like that, but I have
Mhm.
never written sales copy before. So it was
Yeah,
good
different.
to yeah, totally different, right? And it was good to
Mhm.
practice that and then figure out, okay, what are all the pieces of sales copy that you need
Mhm.
for your Gumroad story? You need the landing page, then you need the content, and some
Mhm.
promotional materials on top of that. So it kind of got I went through the whole process and I had my head around that. And then that was hugely valuable as I developed the second and third product.
Yeah, awesome. So do you wanna talk about those? And you have these 2 products up already or up
Yeah,
now
that's right.
rather,
They're up now.
still.
So there was
Mhm.
one is like a work breakdown structure for creating a digital product. So kind of drawing on my experience with project management, I really think work breakdown structure is like my favorite project management tool.
Yeah,
And
tell us about that
yeah,
because people probably don't know what that is.
yeah, it's really just a fancy word for like a project plan that breaks things down at a fairly granular level in terms of what you're going to do to finish a project. So if we're talking about creating a digital product, you go through all the steps of like you know, picking the template for the product, figuring out the title, collecting images for the product, create intro,
Mhm.
chapter 1, chapter 2, so on, if it's a book, for example, and then just breaks it down in that way so that you can do a piece at a time. And it's like when you're writing a book or you're doing a big project, if you just say, I'm going to write a book tomorrow, or I'm going to write a book
Yeah.
this year, you will never write
Mhm.
your book because you're just
Right.
it's kind of this nebulous thing that you're just kind of working on, right?
Yeah, you can never check it off the list.
Yeah,
I hate things that you can't check off the list. Yeah, and
exactly.
write book, like, you only get to check that off once. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I need more items to check off.
absolutely. So this gets down to like even you can make it as the work packages, as they call them, as big or small as you
Mhm.
want. So you can, and I break mine down. I tend to do like 30-minute or even 15-minute
Mhm.
increments of work and what do you need to do. And then, yeah, you get that satisfaction of checking it off and you see that it's actually coming together. Also makes
Mhm.
it easier to fit into your schedule because
Right.
instead of thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna work on my book for a while today,"
Yes.
you say, "Okay, I've got 30 minutes,
Mhm.
that's enough time to do X, and I'm gonna do it, and then I'm
Mhm.
gonna check it off," and it's like, it really does create the momentum to complete
Mhm.
these things. I don't know how I would do it without it, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, because it's just so big. There's
Yeah.
just so many things to do. And so in that product, do you share like some people might not know what to include in that list.
Really, the first thing I created is just the downloadable template, and it kind of
Mhm.
assumes a fair amount of knowledge, I guess, on the part of the person downloading it that they're just gonna, download it and start using the template.
Mhm.
So I think that's something I will maybe in the future supplement it with. And I think that's kind of my lesson coming out of this product and my next one was that part of what you want to do is not just launch new stuff all the time, but also like
Hmm.
refine what you've got. And actually the suggestion you made about the Notion template that I created to create a
Oh,
video
yeah.
to accompany it, that was really valuable. That's like, oh yeah, that's what I could do to improve that. And so I did create like a live video about like a
Oh,
walkthrough of
awesome.
how to use the Notion template. But for this one, what I might do is, like you say, create like a little primer about what is a breakdown structure, how do you use
Hmm.
it, and what's the most effective way to use it. And then you're building the value of the stuff that you've already created, as opposed to
Hmm.
like there's I think sometimes a temptation to just keep launching new stuff and see if anything
Hmm.
sticks, but nothing ever will if you if you're just at that first stage of
Right.
refinement, right? Like you
Hmm.
do basically the product prototyping and, launch it for feedback. Well, it should be feedback, but a lot of people just launch it and
Yeah.
think, "Okay, it's launched and it will do well or not, and now I'm
Hmm.
going on to the next product." But I think it's really powerful if you get something that you think has potential to keep working on it. Hard part is knowing when
Yeah.
to call it a day and when to say, "Okay, I've refined
Yes.
it as well as I can,
Right.
and it's not going anywhere," or there's
Hmm.
a now I actually do have a better idea. 'Cause there's
Hmm.
always the shiny object syndrome, right? Like, we always think that our next idea is the better than the one that we're
Hmm.
working on
Oh, that
'cause
one. Yeah, exactly.
we're familiar with all the problems of the thing that we're working on.
Hmm.
We don't know the problems that are
Yes.
about to be around the corner once we start working on that new thing, so,
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and with the product, like, you can keep it up or pull it down,
Mhm.
or you can keep it up and then pull it down and put it back
Yeah,
up again, like, there's a lot of options
yeah.
there that, you can go through. But yes, new products, yeah, probably not great to be like, "Oh, another new product. Oh, another new product."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think refining the ones that you have, especially if they have sold, like, I
Mhm.
like to think about it like, if you have blog posts on
Right.
your website, if you look at your analytics, the pages that are getting
Mhm.
views, like, how can you refine those to either get people to stay on
Yeah.
longer or maybe buy something or contact you? Like, that's where people
Mhm.
are going. So, yeah, what can you do? And I also had a guest on previously who mentioned that she will revamp her products
Mhm.
to try to get to the same end result quicker.
Mm.
So she pulls out things and
Mm.
and pulls out the fluff and
Yeah.
tries to get people to that end result
Mm.
because she knows better now. So, like,
Right.
that's what she tries to make the product more effective, I guess, is what I'm trying
Yeah,
to say.
that's a great approach because a lot of times, especially with courses, the statistics suggest people, don't tend to finish courses that they buy even.
So long,
Yeah,
so many modules. Oh my
yeah.
goodness. Like, you don't have to have 8 billion modules. Like, I was just talking to somebody recently that, it's like with your kids. I don't know if you have kids, some audience has kids,
Mhm.
but like, you can't tell your kids every single thing at one time. They're never going to remember it. You tell them like the important
Right,
things, and then, something happens. And then when they're ready,
yeah.
you can tell them other things. Like, you just can't, like, I know that, like, in our zeal to share with our
Mhm.
audiences, like, "Here's everything I know about
Yeah,
whatever," you can overwhelm people because you've been studying it and you've been living in
right.
it for a really long time, but they're not there yet.
Yeah,
So, bring them along slowly, don't overwhelm them.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Solve that
Yeah.
one problem.
Exactly, one problem, and then I think that if people see that you can solve that one problem really well,
Mhm.
then they'll be like, "Okay, now I have
Right.
the next problem or another problem," and they'll come back to you looking for a solution.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So do you wanna tell us then about that other product, about the video content
Sure.
management system?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it in a way, it kinda builds on the work breakdown structure, but it takes it another level to look at video content creation. It's really it's I guess I'd call it more like a portfolio management project, as it looks
Mhm,
at, like, all of the videos that you have in production and what stage are they at, and how it's like the Notion template, it's like a spreadsheet, so you can track ideas, you can track, like, the titles and hooks that you've come up with, and then you can also track, like, what stage of the production is the video at. So, talk
mhm,
about, planning, editing, filming, promotion also tracks the repurposing efforts across different
mhm,
platforms. Because I was getting to the point where It's like, did I share that on X or did I share that on
Yeah.
Instagram? I don't know. You kind of
Right.
start losing track. The other part that I found useful, and I really just this was a product I created really for myself, and I needed this to try and keep track of different videos that I was working on because I'd be often working on more than one at a time. It's
Mhm.
actually a good thing because what happens if you're trying to do them end to end is, it can leave kind of large gaps between when you're publishing and it's hard to stay consistent. So you want different videos of different lengths at different stages of the production process so that you can
Mhm.
continually, maintain consistency, which is important on a platform like YouTube. That's how you build your channel momentum, but in order to do
Mhm.
that, you've got a bunch of videos in process, and you have to keep track of where they are, and you kinda get that satisfaction of, like, checking something off because,
Mhm.
like, the planning, you can say, "It's at 25%, okay, I moved it to 50%," and, you know, just keeps the momentum going for yourself as the creator, I hope.
Yeah, for sure, and I would think that, like, trying to do, like you said, like, end to end, like, it wouldn't be very efficient to do that
No,
anyway.
not at
So,
all.
like, I for the first time just, like, 2 weeks ago, for the very first time
Mhm.
since I started this podcast, I recorded 2 episodes,
That's great.
like, back to back, and I was like, "Oh my god, amazing." Like, I was so happy. It took a really
Yeah,
long time to get to that point. However,
yeah,
yes, I will hopefully do that again in the future because it's so hard to to set everything up and
yeah.
get everything in and recorded and hair or whatever, whatever.
Mhm.
Like I think it's just that batching. People say batching.
Yeah,
But batching doesn't have to be. I don't need to record the year's worth of
that's
videos.
right,
Even two is batching.
that's
So
right.
I just people I think get intimidated with that word
I
batching.
think
But
that's where people get hung up on it because they think, "Okay,
mhm.
I'm gonna produce a month's worth of videos in
Yes.
the next 2
Yeah.
days," and it's like, you don't need to
Oh,
do that.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
yeah. Just more than one. Anything that
right.
more than one, I think, is batching, so,
Yeah, exactly,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So you have these up on Gumroad, and you have them set up as pay what you want. So do you wanna
Mhm.
talk about that? Like, how that platform offers that and why you chose that and
Yeah,
anything.
well, it's a good platform, especially for freebies because they charge you a percentage of what you sell it for. It's like 10% flat now.
Mhm,
So if you sell your, product for $10, they get $1, and then there's transaction fees and everything
mhm,
in there. But for freebies, if the price is 0, then there's no cost. You're just using
mhm,
platform to be able to have that, you know, product available for download, and you're able to collect the email address. So it's a very cost
mhm,
effective option for beginning content creators that want to offer something. And then I think, the transaction fee is not unreasonable. And so as you scale, I guess you could probably find a place where you're better to pay the flat, $30 a month
mhm.
fee. And then you're not worrying about that 10%, but you have to get to the point where you scale to that point first. Otherwise it's
Right.
not cost effective. So that's kind of one of the things I like about the platform. But in terms of pay as you go, really the product launched first are really designed to be freebies. And so
Mhm,
trying to build an email list and then, there's no charges like education. I also see it as like educational resources that help
mhm.
people that are, watch my channel. So it's like I said, the Notion template, I made it for myself, but why not share it with other people in the audience that could
Yeah.
benefit from
Mhm.
it?
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's great to, you have a video to be able to be like, "Oh, and I have this thing
Yeah,
if you want it." And then if people want to pay something, they
that's
certainly
right.
can, and the platform accepts it, but they don't have
Yeah.
to. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it is kind of a good way to, like, price the products in such a way it's basically adjusted to what people are able to pay or
Mhm.
what they're willing to pay.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
too. Mhm. Yeah, I
so
think a lot of times we might price for what we would pay or
yeah,
people in our circumstances might pay,
right.
but if we're trying to reach an audience,
Yeah,
around the world, not everybody is going to be able to pay that same amount.
yeah.
Unless we price it really low maybe. So,
Mhm.
having those options I think are good. Do you have it integrated with, like, your email marketing platform? Like, how does it do you have anything connecting right now?
I
People
I
sign up
I
or people get your
do,
product?
like, I've started to it's kind of funny because 'cause I've started to build the list, but I haven't haven't started sending the emails yet.
Yes, you have to send the
I know, I have
emails.
to
Send them
send the
now
emails.
because you're not gonna be good at them yet.
I know,
You
that's
have
the
to do it
thing.
when the list is small.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. I think that's what I'm gonna start doing because, like you say, it's one of those things you're gonna need to go through the process of getting good at
Mhm,
writing that kind of copy. And again, it's like yet
mhm.
another type of copy to
Yeah.
write. But I think the thing about the email is like I've when you sign up for lists, you know how you get spammed sometimes. I
Mhm.
don't want to become someone's spammer. Well, like,
Yes,
trying to
yeah.
figure out and the other thing to keep in mind is it is another channel, with which to
Mhm,
create content for. So, kind of the way I'm approaching it is I am gonna start sending the emails soon, but I'm gonna do it on kind of more of an ad hoc basis, and there's a lot of
mhm.
different, like, theories that you see
Yeah.
in the email marketing world. It's like, well, you better send them
Send them every
exactly
day.
every day. That gets an immediate unsubscribe from me.
Me
If
too.
people send me an
Me too.
email every
Yeah.
day. Once a
Yes.
week
I
is
can't keep up with
reasonable,
it.
exactly,
Yes, yeah.
I'm even okay
Mhm.
with biweekly emails, but
Yeah.
I get what they're trying to say about, staying top of mind for the customer, but
Mhm,
the other part is, if people are gonna take the time to read it, how do you build value into the email so that
mhm,
it's worth their time? It's kinda like
mhm.
because these are, in a way, the warmest leads in your audience. You
Yeah.
wanna take care of
Mhm,
how you approach them, and I think that was been the gap. It's like, for me, the stalling point is like,
mhm.
"Okay, what do I put in the email?" And I kinda start figuring that out, and I'm like, "Okay, but is it good enough yet?"
Well, you can repurpose,
Yeah, true.
so what I do, and not that, like, I'm obviously the be all end all of, like, how you should approach email marketing, but I send twice a month, and only once a month do I send the email that's like, "Here's a couple podcast
Yeah,
episodes that came out. Here's a quick summary of
right.
what happened," because I don't expect that everybody's going to be listening to every
Yeah,
episode. So I feel like with that, people can be like, "Oh, I'd like that one," or
right.
"That one sounds interesting." So, like, I'm repurposing
Yeah,
content, but also just gently reminding
yeah.
people that it exists if, something piques their interest. Don't reinvent the wheel. You already have good content to share.
Mhm.
People may just not have seen it. So, like, in their inbox, though, like,
Yeah.
you could give people a chance. I don't
That's
know.
a
That's
that's
just my
no, that's a good point, and,
my unsolicited advice there.
it's actually a good point because not everyone will see your content, and
Yeah.
also, like, if you're not doing it, like, all the time, if you're doing it, like, once a month or what have
Hmm.
you, most people, even if they've seen it, they'll just be like, "Oh, yeah, I saw that." No,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
not
And
like
that's
they're
okay.
getting the
Right.
daily email. It's like, "Hey, have you
Yes.
seen the latest stuff I put out
Yes.
today?"
Yes. Exactly. It's like, okay, slow
Yeah.
down there. Yeah. Yeah. But no, I think the email is important because I think that, like, it's one that it's not so susceptible to the algorithms,
Yes.
like, it's yours. You get to control, what
Mhm.
you say and when you say it, and you land right in people's inboxes,
Yeah.
and yeah, it takes time, just like with the product, like, it takes time to figure it
Yeah.
out, like, and so sending it when the list is not so big,
Yeah.
I think is better.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so anything else you wanna say about those products or anything before we talk about the next thing?
I guess just that, yeah, the Notion template, it was probably I think it's my best effort so far in
Mhm.
terms of, like, creating a product, and that was partly thanks to the suggestion you made about, like, you keep refining it. When I went back and I did that live, I came up with a couple of other adjustments I could make to it. So, yeah, keep working on the same product or think about the other thing I guess it reminds me of is think about that chain of products that you can make, right? That,
Yeah.
something leads into another product, and
Mhm.
then that's a good way to build your portfolio. It's kind of like around same way as around your content. You want your content to be about similar stuff. And then
Mhm.
so you make your products about the same kind of range of similar stuff. And then you start thinking about, okay, this is the video that could promote that, and then that product can lead into this, and, you
Yes.
start to get
The
those so
path.
yeah, those pathways
Mhm.
developed.
And you don't have to. I think people think, like, I have to start here and then I have to go this, like,
Yeah.
but you could start here
Mhm.
and then backfill. Some people
True.
create their product and they're like, "Oh, wait, I don't have a lead
Yeah.
magnet or a welcome sequence or even a blog post," and then they go back and create those things that
Yeah.
lead into the product. So,
Yeah.
I don't think, obviously, I think it'd be great to start at the beginning,
Mhm.
but wherever you start, yeah, think about what what would people do to get to this
Yeah.
point? How can you get people to this point? And then what can they do,
Right.
yeah, going forward? So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that that's,
And
yeah, definitely good to think about.
and you don't have to map it all out perfectly, right? I think
Yes.
just give it
Right.
some thought. Like, I
Mhm.
think, for example, with my first product, I didn't and it was fine because it was just a small thing, but I didn't think about, like, what how does it fit into everything else?
Mhm.
What would build on it? What would lead to it? All of that stuff. And so
Mhm.
that prompted me to think
Yeah.
more about that afterwards. So,
So you have some print on demand products, which we have not talked about at all on the podcast yet. So I'm really excited to talk about print on demand. Do you want to tell us what it
yeah, well,
is?
if I go back to my very, very first, like, I guess, digital product that I created, it was like a print on demand apparel, I guess you would call it.
Okay.
And that was like way back, like in 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic. I just stumbled upon this site about how you could create print on demand products. And I thought, oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll try and make some. And so I did. And yeah, I kind of started out with that. I did it for a while and then I stopped doing it and just kind of let it go. And then I came back to it more recently, partly because of like, well, number of things. So one, the YouTube channel, someday you can ultimately connect merchandise to your YouTube channel if you get
Mm.
it to a certain level, right? And then that would be like a paid product opportunity. And it's like, I kind of think of it in terms of almost like other creators that I see, it's almost like a ladder of products, right? So there's like
Mhm.
merchandise, then there's the affiliate marketing stuff, and then
Mhm.
there digital products, and then they might have consulting services. Like there's a whole suite of different, I guess,
Mhm.
income streams that you can build. And merch is kind of like, in a way, it's the easiest to start with because the interfaces that they have right now make it pretty straightforward about how you can create a design, and then you could create a design in Canva, for example, and move it over into the print on demand, supplier, and they'll do all the rest. They'll
Mhm.
ship it, and then you just get your cut for creating the design. So it was kind of
Yeah.
sweet that way. And I also like the idea that it was a physical product. So going back
Mhm.
again, years ago, I was at the point where I was thinking of it like, okay, if you sell someone a physical product, it's like you're selling something real, right? Something tangible. And
Mhm.
whereas digital products, and, before I had gotten into using a lot of them, like, from other creators, I think, "Oh, that's kind of, like, intangible, I don't know." But then you do realize that there is a lot of value in there, the value is in the information. But the
Mhm.
difference is kind of, like, in what sells it. Someone buying a physical product, they know they're getting a shirt, and they like the design, they're gonna wear it. It's maybe the
Mhm.
skill of the designer and the quality of the apparel and that kind of thing that helps make the sale. But with a digital
Mhm.
product, it's more trust based, right? You have to trust
Yeah.
creator that you're actually getting
Mhm.
something, and you can do some things to mitigate that with money back guarantees and whatnot. But I think still you have to have a certain level of trust. And so I
Mhm.
thought, okay, maybe print on demand products, they're in a way easier to create and easier to convince people to buy. And
Yeah, because you get what
that's
you
right.
see,
Yeah.
right? Like, you just see it and you're like, "Oh,
You you order
that's what
it,
I'm
you are
getting." Yeah.
going to get a shirt. Right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Whatever the
Yeah.
design says, the companies that make them, like Printify or TeePublic or whatever, they have, you know, pretty standardized processes, so it's going to
Mhm.
be, a decent product when you as long as the designer hasn't messed up in some way about how they're supposed to
Yes.
upload the file. But even
Yeah.
then, they
Yeah.
usually have some kind of quality controls that can help,
Mhm.
with that. But the thing that I thought was interesting about print on demand, the reason I thought we could talk about it was it reminded me something about barriers to entry in a product line. And with print on demand, there's very few barriers to entry. It's like anyone with
Mhm.
a Canva account can create one of these products and market them. So it becomes an extremely saturated market, and to some degree a very undifferentiated market because
Mhm.
you have, even with digital products, you might have some copycats or what have you. But
Mhm.
print on demand, it's really rife with what they call improve cats. So somebody creates a design that is doing well, people will not copy it exactly, but differentiate
Mhm.
enough or improve on it a little bit, and then they'll kind of like eat into the profits of that creator. So it's kind of like it
Yeah.
reminded me of my first year economics class that I remember from like 30 years ago that the professor talking about this question of barriers to entry. And he says, you want to get into a business where there are significant barriers to entry, or you can create barriers to entry so people can't replicate exactly what you're doing. And I think that
Hmm.
in a way, that's part of what digital products offer because you're offering your knowledge, your experience. Usually the people that buy them, they have some kind of relationship with you, if only through,
Hmm.
watching your content.
Hmm.
But they will buy it because of that reason, and nobody can exactly replicate that in the same way that they could replicate a design on a t-shirt or like I said, slightly improve it and change it just enough so that then they're the ones kind of making the profit off of that
Hmm.
design.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a big emotional roller coaster there for me because I was like, "Oh, wow, that sounds so great. Oh, no, that sounds terrible."
Right. And I don't
Like,
mean
"So
to
easy, great. Oh, no, people are gonna steal my stuff."
I don't to dissuade people from doing print on demand. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of been my experience, like, kind of watching
Mhm.
that market for the past couple of years. I still think there's still, some opportunity, right? If you're
Well, I think, like, if you so if you have the audience, right? So if
Mhm.
let's say you have a digital product and you have the audience and you have merchandise that's just related to
Yeah,
that, even if somebody else was using those same slogans or
right.
whatever, I think you might still be okay
Yeah.
because people know you, like you, they're buying your other things, so it's easy enough for them to buy. They would buy from you
Yeah.
still. But yeah, you're probably not gonna, like, retire on those T-shirts with that slogan,
Probably
so
not, yeah, and then that's
yeah,
the
but as a supplement.
it's a supplement that and that's where I
Mhm,
think the connection to the YouTube channel could be very
mhm,
beneficial that way because, you like you say, you've got the audience, they like you already, they like the type of content that you create. Maybe they
yeah,
like your sense of
mhm,
humor, so they're probably gonna buy from you,
right,
even if they're like, "Oh, that other person has a slightly better design," or
yes,
or they've
right,
they'll just buy the
mhm,
one that you created, so there is
yeah,
that.
or even if it has the same, like, slogan,
Yeah,
but, like, with your branding
right.
on it, underneath or something, like, yeah, there could be ways.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they wanna support you. I think people do want to support
yeah.
creators that who are providing a lot of this
Mhm.
free information.
Right.
We're out there, we're doing the research, we're having the conversations, and then we're just sharing that back,
Yeah,
and I think that's valuable for people.
yeah, and then the other thing that's kind of neat, I think about print on demand is just the idea of, like, creating a design and then I have sold some of the shirts, and so I don't know where in the world people bought it, but somewhere in the world, there's somebody walking
Oh my
around with the shirt
goodness.
I've designed, so, like, that's kinda
Yes,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool. So a long, long time ago, I've not told this story yet. A long, long time ago, I made these coupon holders. I
Mhm.
sewed these coupon holders. It was a whole weird that had Velcro and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But anyway, so I sold them. I would go to like craft fairs. It
Mhm.
was not successful. But apparently somebody bought one because I was at the mall one time and there was a woman in front of me in line and she had one in her purse. And I was like, oh my God.
That's
It
cool.
was the most amazing thing ever. I didn't say anything to her. I was
Right.
just so like, oh my gosh. That was a weird story. But
No,
anyway.
that's
So
great.
yeah,
That's cool, I
that's
totally
cool.
get it,
Yeah.
yeah. So and it's kinda like
Oh
I was
my.
thinking about this earlier today as I was kinda thinking about the podcast episode, and it's almost like, how people would have a hobby like woodworking or what have you, and they're
Mhm.
just not gonna retire, like you say, off the proceeds, but they
Yeah.
create something and then they know other people use it, and that in itself is kinda
Yeah.
cool.
And if you make some money too,
Yeah,
and then, yeah, that pays for what your health insurance or maybe you don't
right.
have to be a Walmart greeter because you are you're making enough money to,
Yeah,
like, just some. You're making some money. My dad
right.
always used to say, like, everybody needs a couple extra dollars, like, a couple
Mhm.
extra, like, pocket money or something like that, like,
Right.
so, this can be that for people where you don't have to
Mhm.
go out or be on somebody's schedule,
Yeah.
and you can like, I think it's really interesting to kinda
Mhm.
go down these little paths and like, "Oh, what if I did
Yeah.
this? Or what if I did that? Or how does that work?" Like, I think it's fun.
Yeah,
Cool,
yeah.
awesome. So, there are people out there who have not created anything yet. Think they're thinking about something, maybe they have something half started, but they have not launched anything, and do you have some advice? And it could be things that you've already said before or a new thing. It could be either do or don't do, but what advice do you have for people who want to create a digital product?
Definitely just start and create
Mhm.
something, right? It took me a long time to create even that first simple product, the the dynamic Twitter banner because I got really stuck in the whole range of options. It is overwhelming how many different types of products you could create. And then you can go down these rabbit holes of trying to analyze, well, what is the ultimate product and what is like the
Yeah,
best,
what is it?
yeah, what is like the best thing that I could do. And I think
Mhm.
at some point you just have to pick something and start and do it. And then you learn from it. And then you kind of realize, okay, I can take the lessons from that and I'm going to apply it to this next thing. And
Mhm.
yeah, and it's kind of,
But if you don't do that first one, then
yeah,
yeah, it's all still just a mystery. And not that like once you do it, you'll know everything, but you'll know more. You'll be like, okay,
yeah. And
I know a couple things now.
you kind of prove that it can be done to yourself.
Yes.
And then you get to the
Yes.
next product. Yeah,
Mhm.
keep refining, keep
Yeah.
improving.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. Any other advice?
I think the other thing is, like, trying to like we were saying before, like, thinking about the connections between,
Mhm.
products so that you're not creating things in kind of isolated cells. You're starting to think about, like, how would this fit into a suite of product. One thing I did kinda learn recently, which I thought was useful for me, was about, the different levels of products. So you got kind of like your freebies, and you've got your low priced products and your mid priced and your higher end products. But then there's another kind of template you can layer on top of that, which is, was it do it yourself, do it with you, and done for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I
Yeah, done
started
for you,
thinking
done with
about
you. Yep.
that
Mhm.
too. And
Yeah.
like as you kind of go up that, you charge more for the stuff that is like
Mhm.
done for you. Like that obviously takes the most investment on your part as the creator or do it yourself. And more like, an entry level product. And so thinking about like where does your product kind of fall in that range? And is there an upper range or an upper limit to
Mhm.
what you want to do? Maybe you want to focus mostly on do it yourself products, but have more of them.
Yeah.
Or maybe you want to do, I've seen other creators kind of go the opposite direction. Everything is like the high end done for you
Mhm.
service, and maybe they have 1 or 2, like, little lead magnets that kinda pull people into the conversations
Yeah,
themselves.
or like a paid lead magnet.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's an often overlooked one.
that's
If
right.
you are offering those high-end one-on-one services,
Yeah,
there's still a place for a digital product.
yeah,
Somebody you're warming them up a little bit more,
that's
they
right.
open their wallet a little bit, then they're gonna open the whole thing up.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I think there's still a place for it, even if you love one-on-one services. So, yeah, I
for
agree.
sure, yeah, because, like, those products are the ones that will if you can create something awesome that you charge, like, 7 or $10 for, and you solve somebody's problem, and they're like, "Wow, like, imagine if I get the whole package." Like, they're
Yeah.
obviously legit, right? So
Mhm.
those are
Right.
yeah, no, those are very
Yeah,
powerful, I think.
it's the next level, like, know, like, and trust you, right? We're writing
Yeah,
blog posts, we're writing emails, we're creating videos, we're doing this
yeah,
so that we can get people to know us and like us and trust us who aren't near us,
right.
right? Like, we're at the grocery store, we're with friends, like,
Yeah,
we can turn our charm on, but, we have to do these things online,
yeah,
and so, yeah, just another way for people to get to know us and
yeah,
like us and trust us just a little bit more.
yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. Awesome. Yay, thanks.
Oh,
So tell people where they can find you online.
okay, so my website is, mytalkblog.com, and that's my podcast website, and you can also find me on YouTube by searching for My Talk Blog, and it's actually stands for My Photography Blog, which is what I
Oh, okay.
originally envisioned way back when I was kinda getting into creating an online presence, and then from there, it kinda transitioned into, doing videos on Instagram, and then videos on Instagram kinda led into YouTube, and now I think, YouTube's kind of like my favorite platform right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you so much for being on today.
well, thank you very much for having me.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'd love to continue the conversation in your inbox. Email subscribe to hey@yfdp.show or sign up in the show notes to get bi-monthly emails about how you can create, launch, and market your first digital product. Can't wait to see you there.